you are preparing for your biggest project yet, and I would love to hear more about the thinking that has gone into that from a long-term fulfillment point of view, because it's a big one, and knowing the way that you approach things, there'll be a lot of thought gone into where this sits in your to-do list as an individual with the life that you have available to you. And I'd love to know how you've planned for it, what it entails, what you're worried about, and ultimately when it kicks off, which is very, very soon.
So, you talked a bit about chaos there, and it's true that a lot of the early years have been very chaotic, and it is a case of doing what I possibly can. And in a sense, this next project is my way of bringing some degree of order to that chaos, in that it will be my absolute focus for the coming years. And I think whenever I've sort of excelled at anything, it is when I've given it my absolute focus. And I think that's the case for a lot of us. It's, I heard this thing, which is if you have 15 priorities, you really don't have any. And so this is absolute priority number one. And the project is the Ultimate 7 project. And this is something which, first came to my mind about 10 years ago. Over the last few years, I've thought about it a lot, researched it, and to a point where I think it's possible. And it's a project it's a world first project. It's never been done before, never been attempted before. It is a multi-year endeavor. And essentially the project is this: to travel by human power from the lowest point in each continent to the highest in all 7 continents. So to give you a sense of what that would look like, it is 7 separate expeditions on all 7 continents, entirely by human power, from the lowest point by elevation to the highest. So, of course, finishing up with all 7 summits. And to break each of those down, it will involve around 500 days of expeditions in total across all different climates: deserts, jungles, mountains, seas. It will involve thousands of miles of human-powered endeavor. And as I say, it's never been done before. So knowing what I know, having spent 15 years in this world of adventure, I really believe it is on the limits of what is possible physically and logistically. Those who I've spoken to, agree, who are well placed to give judgment on this kind of challenge. And so this feels like my piece de resistance. It feels like it's what I've been building towards for my entire career. And you know what? Another element of motivation here, and I've always thrived on kind of pushing the limits of what's possible, of going outside of my comfort zone. And I remember one strange realization I had last year when I was in Syria. I was guiding a team through Syria. We were in Aleppo, a city which has been bombed, completely destroyed through the Syrian civil war. Nobody's been there for 10 years. There are many dangers. And I remember sitting with the group I was guiding through there and just had this thought, which is, this feels way too comfortable. And it was a really strange realization to have in such a place, but it really did. And actually, in the build up to that trip, I'd had a stressful time at home, and I had so many plates spinning, and was just frantically working towards lots of things. And I felt so tranquil in this most sort of hostile, remote, chaotic place. And I thought, well, if this doesn't feel hard enough, or if this feels too comfortable, maybe I've been playing it safe. And so, the Ultimate 7 project is me really ratcheting things up to the maximum. And yeah, I'm very, very excited about the possibilities that I believe exist with this project, which even before starting is slowly starting to show themselves.
For context, for those listening, and for myself actually, because I don't know the lowest points of the 7 continents, what are the 7 A to Bs that you need to cover?
So Africa, heading out there in 2 days for the first leg. That is Lac Assal in a little country called Djibouti, one of the hottest places on earth. It's going to be 45 to 50 degrees. Then a 1,600-mile cycle through Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, into Tanzania to climb Kilimanjaro. Asia will be Dead Sea to Everest, Dead Sea being Jordan, Israel, all the way pretty much across Asia, through some quite interesting countries, then to finish up with Everest. North America, Death Valley to Denali, Death Valley being Southern California, way up to Denali in Alaska, only ever been done once before. South America, lowest point is a little area on a little peninsula about 1,600 miles away from Aconcagua. Notorious for its brutal winds, harsh weather conditions. Europe is politically interesting at the moment because the highest and lowest points is both in Russia. So the lowest point is Caspian Sea. Yeah, so that makes things somewhat interesting. Right now might be one to keep for later. Lowest point is the Caspian Sea. Highest point is Elbrus. So a lot of people don't think of Russia as Europe, but half of it is, or about a third of it is. Mount Elbrus at about 5,600 meters. And Antarctica, the highest point is Mount Vincent. And the lowest point has been quite hard to research, actually, because so much of Antarctica has not been mapped. So I think I'm on the right track of where it is, but that one may require a bit more research and consultation. Oceania, very interesting one, the lowest point is Lake Eyre in South Australia, and the highest point is on West Papua, so an entirely different landmass, and so that is going to present some interesting challenges, to say the least.
Those were much worse than I thought they'd be.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what I was expecting.
They're pretty bad.
They're pretty bad. That's one way of saying it. But what an absolutely phenomenal way of interacting with all 7 continents, because you get the highs and lows. Good one, Fergus. Along with the enormous variation in climate that can come with a lot of these places, which is a very, very unique experience. And again, you're not going to bump into anyone at the local that has the same stories to tell at the back end of this. Yeah. If it's not rude of me to ask, how much is this going to cost?
Several £100,000.
I assumed as much. Yeah. I was wondering whether we were dipping into 7 figures or not.
Could nudge towards 7 figures quite easily.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Because are you documenting it in a high level way as well? What's the sort of team dynamic and logistics to consider?
So at an absolute minimum, I will be documenting it, although conversations are ongoing with a number of TV production companies. So yeah, that's a possibility without talking too much on that. But absolute minimum, I will be documenting it as much as I possibly can.
Is your brief just get what you can and we'll piece it together at the back end? Hypothetical TV company that we can't refer to.
Yeah, that's one way we could do things. Yeah. That's one way we could do things. So, I mean, what I would like to achieve is to have, film crew with me, because, knowing what I know from my experiences so far, expeditions, journeys like this just present the most interesting, unpredictable moments. And, it's with a crew that you can really capture that. So that is the intention somewhere down the line. And it's going to be, a building process. I'm intentionally starting with the kind of cheaper, easier expeditions, building it up from there, strategically. And then, very, very pleased to have a couple of big brands on board. Le Col, the cycling brand, premium cycling brand, British brand, doing amazing things, really high-end quality cycling gear, support the likes of Bradley Wiggins, Victoria Pendleton. And then I've just today shared news that Canada Goose are coming on board as the mountain clothing sponsor, who are a truly massive global brand and support some of the absolute great explorers and adventurers. So there's many signs which are sort of showing me the true scope and scale of this project. I know that, but to have brands like Canada Goose put their faith in it, that really backs it up from my point of view.